All right, let's just jump right into this. Victor Antonio dropped this incredibly punchy quote that really hits the nail on the head when it comes to modern sales. He said, "If you focus on price, you'll see price. But if you focus on value, you start seeing value differentiation." Welcome to this explainer. I absolutely love starting with this idea, because honestly, defaulting to price just breeds a totally lazy sales mentality. And today, we're going to break down exactly how to snap out of that trap. So, in today's explainer, we're looking at the old way versus the consultative way. We're going to identify those ineffective, totally self-centered sales tactics that so many professionals accidentally slip into, and we're going to replace them with a much more sophisticated, buyer-centric approach.
Here's a quick roadmap for what we're covering today. First up, the lazy price excuse. Second, smarter cold call openers. Third, fixing vague website messaging. And finally, proof and buyer connection. Let's get to it.
All right, part one, the lazy price excuse.
Look, we hear this excuse all the time, right? The customer only cares about price. But channeling a little of Victor Antonio's tough love for a second, that is just a lazy salesperson's excuse. Think about it. If someone defaults to price, it really just means they don't understand the actual value of what they're offering, or at least they don't know how to explain it. Because they can't articulate that value, they just panic and drop to the lowest common denominator. And honestly, if a company is purely going to sell on price, why do they even need you? They could literally just email the buyer a checkout link and call it a day.
Playing that price game, it leads directly into what we call the pricing spiral. It's brutal. You lower your price to win a deal. Then your competitor lowers theirs to match. So you lower yours again. It becomes this endless race to the bottom where nobody wins, margins disappear, and eventually everybody goes out of business. Plus, a customer who comes to you strictly because you're the cheapest, they are absolutely going to leave you the second someone else is cheaper.
So how do we fix this? The key here is proactively differentiating your value. You don't just drop the numbers, you get creative with it. You can customize orders and products to make them highly specific for a client. You can wrap your product in unique services that your competitors simply aren't offering. Or, and never underestimate this one, you can just provide exceptional customer service. You, the professional, are a massive differentiator. How you treat and educate the buyer is a huge part of that actual value chain.
Moving right along to section 2, smarter cold call openers.
Let's take a look at the very top of the funnel and compare the old way to the new way of initiating conversations. There's this trendy, hyper-honest approach going around lately that sounds like, "Hey, honestly, this is a cold call. Can you give me 30 seconds? Compare that to the new way. "Hey, did I catch you in the middle of anything?" It is so much more informal, right? It sounds exactly like a coworker just popping their head into your office to check in, rather than a telemarketer strictly reading off a script.
So why is that honest 30-second opener actually holding you back? Well, the second you proudly declare you're a salesperson asking for time on the clock, you instantly flag yourself. You completely trigger the prospect's guardedness. Even if they're polite and say, "Sure, go ahead," their walls are completely up. By starting that way, you're virtually guaranteeing those inevitable objections like, "Yeah, I'm not interested," or "We already used someone for that."
Instead, let's pivot to a much more sophisticated method. This is the Sales Scripter's 3-step consultative cold call framework. It's specifically designed to keep those walls down and build genuine interest. It goes like this. Step 1. Confirm availability. Step 2, share your value proposition. And step 3, the sales takeaway.
Now, step 2 is where a lot of folks stumble because they accidentally do a boring product dump. Let's compare them. A product dump sounds like this. We provide a full suite of accounting services like tax filing and bookkeeping. Yawn, right? That flags you as a salesperson immediately. But a true value proposition, that sounds like, we decrease your tax exposure and save you time. You absolutely have to communicate in a way that aligns with what the prospect actually cares about. And guess what? They care about what it means for them. And then right after you share that value, you hit them with step 3, the sales takeaway. This is such a fascinating psychological trigger. The sales takeaway creates this powerful push-pull effect by explicitly expressing doubt about whether the prospect is even a good fit for you. You literally say something like, "But I really don't know if we can help you in that same way or not." You push the value and then you gently pull it away. It shows them you aren't going to aggressively push something down their throat. That drops their guardedness and instantly drives curiosity instead of resistance.
All right, section 3, fixing vague website messaging.
Shifting over to the marketing side, sales expert James Newell drops a really hard truth here. Wanting to be all things to all people means you're nothing to anyone.
It's so incredibly easy to fall into the trap of playing it safe with your website copy. Businesses write these incredibly broad messages because they want to appeal to every possible visitor. But in doing so, the website ends up saying absolutely nothing specific. It quietly kills your sales because buyers just can't connect with it.
Just look at these two approaches side by side. Vague copy says, comprehensive tax solutions. It's safe, sure, but it connects with absolutely no one. On the flip side, trigger point copy says, worried about your tax bill? That is highly specific. It's emotional. It hits a real, tangible trigger point that makes the buyer stop in their tracks and instantly say, wow, yep, that's me.
So how do we genuinely connect with buyers through our words? Your messaging has to do 3 specific things. First, you have to name the exact problem you solve. Second, you have to name the real, lived moment that triggered them to go looking for a solution in the very first place. And third, you must answer the single most important question floating around in their head, what's in it for me?
Which brings us to our final part, Section 4, Proof and Buyer Connection.
Now for the final stage of the buyer's journey, and here's a pretty harsh reality for a lot of businesses out there. Your case studies are full of great results, but they are still failing to convert a single buyer. Why is that? Well, we tend to pack our case studies with these massive data dumps, long quotes, and endless facts. But listen, simply listing facts is not the same thing as making a buyer care. When you just dump data, you're forcing the reader to connect the dots themselves. And let's be honest, most of them simply won't bother.
To actually fix your case studies, you have to explicitly answer the buyer's ultimate question. What does this mean for me? You have to build a bridge between what happened for your previous client and what that actually means for the person reading it right now on their screen. Adding that simple bridge is exactly what transforms the case study from something a buyer passively reads into something a buyer actively acts on.
And we really need to talk about the brutal truth of buyer due diligence. Buyers actively check your claims before they ever pick up the phone to call you. If you throw out unverified claims, it quietly destroys their trust. And here is the most vital takeaway. If the proof isn't completely obvious and easy to find, buyers will just assume the evidence doesn't exist at all.
Take the number 500, for example. James Newell shared this fantastic case of having over 500 LinkedIn recommendations. Now, why is that specific number so important? Because it's visible, undeniable proof. Buyers do their homework, right? They will absolutely go and verify a number like that before ever contacting you. It just goes to show that making a claim without easily visible proof is honestly worse than making no claim at all.
Which brings us to one final provocative thought I want to leave you with today. I want you to take a hard look at your own go-to-market communication strategy and ask yourself, if a buyer checks your claims right now, today, what will they find? Are they going to find lazy pricing, salesy pitches, and vague copy with totally hidden proof? Or will they find clear value, consultative messaging, and undeniable evidence? Definitely something to think about. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning out there.